Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Soul-Led Spirit-Driven podcast slash YouTube video session, still in this different format. I have a fantastic guest for you today, Sammi, who is a breathwork healing and embodiment coach. And I know that a lot of you have asked to speak to someone who facilitates breathwork session, um, group sessions, and deals with that and helps to relieve trauma through breathwork. But also, I personally have been really fascinated with the work that Sammi does. Hence why we are here, and welcome Sammi to my podcast.
Thank you, Kasia. I'm very happy to be here. I'm very excited for this conversation.
Me too, because I know you will bring so much incredible knowledge and wealth of wisdom to this conversation and shed some light around breathwork. Because I have to admit, till I had, till I came across you, but till I had probably a session of my own, I never really understood what breathwork does, which is funny because so many times in my own practices, when I have sessions, guides sometimes will say, do the sequence of breaths or start with this breath. But I never actually kind of delved into it, like, why do we have to do that? Or, other than I know that it helps me personally to drop deeper into my body. And I know that when we are anxious and we tend to shallow breathe, that actually becoming aware and of our breath and breathing deeper helps us. That was my limited knowledge on breath work and the importance. And then you have opened up this whole new universe in front of me. So I want to naturally share you with everyone, and I'm very excited. And perhaps before we delve into your story, how you became this breathwork facilitator, healer, embodiment coach, perhaps share with us where we can find you so that whoever's watching, listening, knows where to find you. We don't forget that.
Yeah. So I'm most active on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Sammi. So that's Sammi .Lee, Leey. And you can also get me via email, which is breathewithsammi@gmail.com. And I also have a website, which is www.samanthalee.au. So any of those methods, yeah, easiest way.
Fantastic. And I love your Instagram because that's actually, like I said before I had your session, these were the first sort of little breadcrumbs that I saw that kind of initiated me into like what your work is and how important breath work is and being, aware of a breath, a breathing, and what it can do for us. So I will make sure to put all these links below to make it super easy for you. But if you're someone like me, you're watching, something and you're like, let me check them out. There you go. You've got the links to go and find Sammi. So Sammi, please tell us a little bit about your story. Like, how did you become a breathwork healer and embodiment coach?
Yes, so wow, it's a very long story, I guess. And I guess my story really begins back when I started traveling. From a very young age, I guess I always knew that I always knew that I wanted to have very deep experiences in life and see the world. And I just knew that I was always going to leave my hometown and do bigger things, I guess. So I first went overseas actually when I was 15 years old, and that kind of sparked my love for traveling. I didn't go overseas again till I was 21. And then from there, basically, I spent about 13 years, I think, traveling the world as a nomad, backpacking all over the place, like South America, Southeast Asia, Europe, Canada, America, Central America, pretty much most continents. So I spent, yeah, 13 years kind of traveling, moving around. I lived overseas for quite some time as well, and back and forth from Australia. And every time I would come back to Australia, I would move to a different place in Australia. So I've kind of lived all over Australia as well. And Um, Traveling for me, I guess at the time was probably, um, I was obviously traveling to kind of discover who I was and discover parts of myself, but it was also subconsciously what I didn't realize at the time, running away from myself too. Doing a lot of running, which only became obvious to me later in life what I was actually doing. So all the traveling was quite a mask, a cover for to be able to find peace and joy in life. But it was obviously covering up a lot of my hidden trauma that I didn't realize I had. Yeah, so I spent a lot of time traveling, and in between traveling, I would start new jobs. I think I can't even count on my hands how many different jobs I've had. I'd start new jobs. I'd literally last probably, the most 1 year in a job until I got the itchy feet and I always knew that I wasn't meant to do 9 to 5 work. Like I hated it. It just, yeah, I just didn't enjoy it. I didn't like feeling trapped or controlled, or just all of it was just quite repulsive to me. So
Mm.
I never lasted much longer than a year in a job, and often that was literally just saving money for my next stint of long-term backpacking anyway. So yeah, I never found anything that felt aligned to me, that felt like I would want to pursue and stick out as a career. And I just had that I had that desire for a freedom lifestyle, life on my own terms from a very young age. I always knew that that's what I wanted. I just, freedom is one of my biggest values in life, and it always has been. So, yeah, I guess I continued to travel and quit jobs, and I moved around different places, parts of the world, and met different people, had incredible different experiences. But the whole time, I guess I was kind of molding myself into different environments every time I went along. Like I would mold myself to fit into specific groups of people, or mold myself to fit into communities. Um, and then the moment I kind of felt like I was being rejected or it didn't feel good to me anymore, I would pack up, run away, and move to the next place. And I did that over and over and over and over again for, yeah, as I said, like going on 13 years or something. So I think underneath all of that, even though I was traveling and having all of these beautiful, amazing, incredible experiences, I had met people all over the world and, built a good network. I still, I think underneath all of that, felt quite deeply alone. I always felt like I was a little different. I felt like I didn't quite fit in wherever I went. And even like growing up and stuff, like I always felt like I was this person that didn't feel fit in. People thought I was weird and like all of these kinds of things. Yeah. Um, so I just continued to do that, and I continued to, yeah, move around and mold myself into environments, and not really being the authentic me. I didn't even know who that person was. I was discovering parts of myself on the journey, but it wasn't until probably, and I think I did try different things to try and create the life that I was looking for. I wanted that freedom lifestyle. I always knew that I kind of wanted to create my own business and work for myself and have that freedom and flexibility, be of service to people and help people. And I tried different things. Like I tried travel blogging and I tried multi-level marketing and all these different things to try and create that lifestyle for myself. But again, nothing ever stuck. Um, I'd kind of just give up on it and move on to the next thing, or go back to a normal job and hate that. And it was just a vicious cycle of doing the same thing over and over again. Um, and I think during that journey, when I started kind of getting into, yeah, trying to create this lifestyle for myself, I kind of got into personal development along the way, just dabbling in like little bits here and there, and reading books and podcasts and that kind of stuff. And it was probably, yeah, it wasn't until when I first kind of had or realized I had a spiritual awakening. I was back in Australia and I was traveling around in my camper van, and I was really at this point where I was really just contemplating everything in my life. What am I doing next? I'd come home. It was actually in the middle of COVID too. I'd come home, luckily, just timing was right just before COVID kind of hit, so I didn't get stuck overseas. I managed to get back to Australia. But I was just contemplating anything. I just quit another job. I'd worked for just under 12 months as a recruitment agent, which I tried to stick at, and again, it didn't work. So I was at another crossroads in my life. Like, what am I doing? I'd quit my job. I'd packed up everything into my van, and I was traveling through WA and just, I don't know, trying to figure my life out, what I was going to do. I was coming on 30. I was nearly 30 by this stage, and I was turning 30 that year. So it was all like, oh my God, what am I doing with my life? Like, I can't keep just quitting. I need to find something that, that I'm going to continue doing. And what am I going to do? Am I going to travel more? All of these things, just contemplating everything. And yeah, just traveling through WA at the time. And I met this guy that I ended up traveling with for a while, and he was a very, very spiritual guy, and he was a very nice guy. We traveled together for a couple of months, and I spent a lot of time with him. And I think it was him that really kind of opened up to my eyes to what I was already going through. Like, I dabbled a little bit, I guess, in spirituality had kind of intrigued me along the way. Like, I had one of my best friends, she was always kind of reading my oracle cards and doing things like that. So I was kind of like intrigued in little bits of it. But I always had this, I don't know, this belief that you had to be some kind of like gifted person to be a spiritual person. Like, I was like, I can't be a spiritual person. Like, that's, I'm not gifted in any way, or I'm not this, or I'm not that, just these beliefs, because I had no idea about like it really.
Mm.
Um, so I spent time with this guy, and he just one day he just said to me, I think you're going through a spiritual awakening. And that was literally the golden nugget. That was the light bulb that went off in my head. That was my catalyst moment, my pivotal moment of my journey. That was like everything just kind of went ding, 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 ding. And it all just went, oh my God, this is what's been happening to me these last couple of years. Like, this is why I'm feeling like this, why I'm questioning everything. And like all these things just started fitting into place. So he was my pivotal moment. That literal one
Wow.
sentence was my pivotal moment. I still remember it. And from there, I just went on this just super deep journey of healing and awakening, and yeah, just really raising my consciousness, becoming aware of self-discovery, all these incredible things. Like, yeah, so many different things along the way. So um
So you
yeah, I
found that
guess,
moment. I just want to jump in because this is a quite a
yeah.
pivotal moment for you, but also I know that um a lot of the people in my um uh, sphere, let's say audience, a lot of my clients go through this exact moment, and some are perhaps going and don't even know it. So what can you describe, like, what was that like? So you hear these words, it's like you connected the dots for you, things are happening, and then you said you went on a sort of more spiritual personal growth healing journey. But what were the steps between realizing this and then, like, how does this journey start? What did you do next? Did you kind of, I don't know, because I remember mine, and I felt like when someone said you're psychic, I was like, really? I'm part of the special crowd, and I expected to wake up having all these superpowers, being able to like hear, see. I've actually shared a meme that pretty much sums up how I felt about talking to guides. Um, and that wasn't the thing. It was like the beginning of, you know, now you have to uh learn how to silence all this so that you can hear the little gift that's emerging. And
Mm,
it was so subtle that I actually questioned it. I didn't question so much the worthiness, like around the worthiness, because I had a pretty good spiritual teacher who straight away goes, you know, it's not a special thing. We're all special, we're all, but we each have a unique gift. So for me, it wasn't a question of like, oh, I don't know if I'm worthy enough. For me, it was like, well, I'm not hearing it or seeing spirit, like no one's waking me up. So maybe it's not that, like, and my journey continued with finding myself a teacher, finding, someone who will actually literally say, hey, this is what this is like. This is how you hear them. This is how you see them. This is, what your intuition is like. But what was your experience after hearing?
Yeah. It was definitely a lot of self-study. I mean, I learned a lot from him as well, the guy that I spent that time with during those couple of months with him. Um, but honestly, it was just a lot of deep self-studying. And also, when you kind of make that when one thing starts happening, other things kind of come along. So I'd met him and then we ended our time together. And then, all the people that I was meeting there on after were all like spiritual people or people in personal development, healing, healers, like all these things. They
Your
just
next
started
breadcrumbs.
showing up. Yeah,
Yeah.
they just started showing up in my life. And it was just like one thing led to the next, led to the next. So I mean, I spent time with him. I spent some time at that stage we were still seeing each other and we spent some time on a permaculture farm in Kununurra up in Western Australia and the lady that owned ran that farm, she was a shamanic healer. She'd spent a lot of time, she worked with plant medicine, she spent a lot of time, 6 or 7 years working with shamans in the Amazon and all of this stuff. So it was just coming into alignment with these
Mm.
people that were, that was obviously meant to come into my journey. And I remember the first time that I experienced breath work. Prior to this, I dabbled in, like, I understood very basics, like you were saying before, of breath work. I dabbled in the Wim Hof method in my personal development journey, which is like cold water therapy and specific breathing. So I dabbled in a little bit of Wim Hof, but I knew nothing else about the type of breath work that I facilitate now. So the first experience I had with it, I was staying on this farm and this woman, this healer was offering healings to us that were staying there. So there was quite a few of us doing like volunteering and you get your free accommodation and free food and all that kind of stuff by volunteering on the farm. So I went and had this healing with her, and I didn't really know what to expect, to be honest. There was nothing said about breath work or anything like that. I just thought it'd probably be like Reiki, that kind of stuff. And by this point, I had started to understand about trauma. So I had started to realize what trauma was and childhood trauma and recognize that actually had that myself, because like my father passed away when I was a child and I went through my whole life saying to people it didn't affect me. Like that's just what I had been conditioned to do really. Like it didn't affect me, like it didn't worry me. I'm totally fine, completely suppressed, buried very deep under. So it wasn't until I started, my spiritual awakening, I'm like, oh my God, this is trauma. I have this childhood trauma that has essentially influenced my life in so many ways, in the ways that I show up in relationships, in the ways that I'm disconnected from myself, all these things. So, yeah, I'd already kind of started to double a little bit into understanding about trauma and my own trauma. And I went into this healing session and, she starts doing all her things. She had medicine drums and instruments and yeah, all the things. And, then she started saying, like, breathe, do this breathing technique. So I started doing this breathing technique. I was laying on the table, started doing this breathing technique, and I could just feel all these things starting to happen in my body, like all these different sensations. And like all of a sudden, just all of this emotion just surfaced in my body. Like it was just super intense. I had all these like things coming through. I thought that I would go in and I would do a lot of like healing around my dad, but I had all this stuff about my mum coming up and like just all of these emotions. And all of a sudden I just had this most huge cathartic release. Like it was like a lifetime of suppressed grief had surfaced in my body and like was coming out of me and on this table, I was literally like shaking. I was wailing. I was screaming. I was crying. I had all these like just messages coming through that I was saying, and just like it was a huge cathartic release, like absolutely huge. And at the end of it, I was just like, oh my God, what was that? And where did all of that come from, you know? Like just so much, yeah, just it was that's what it was. It was suppressed grief that had been trapped in my body, in my psyche, in my system for my entire life. And I haven't, I've never been much of a crier. I always found it quite difficult to express emotions, to cry. I was very disconnected from my body. Like, I was kind of just floating around the world, very unconscious, very disconnected from my inner world, from the way I treated people, the way I treated myself. I used drugs, alcohol, sex, all those types of things to fit in, to cope, to get validation, all of these things. So I was a very disconnected person. And so this was quite a pivotal moment, this first breathwork experience in my journey, to be able to be like, wow, okay, this is there's a lot of stuff under the surface that I had no idea was there, that I'd been suppressing and believing wasn't affecting me my whole life. So that was my first experience with breath work. And from there, basically, yeah, as I said before, it was just kind of one thing after another. I was traveling all around Australia at the time. So I was moving around, meeting a lot of different people that were coming in and out of my life that were kind of, you know, giving me more golden nuggets and unlocking more little clues and little things here and there. And continued to pursue breath work. I did a lot of online sessions and things like that, and
For
bringing more
yourself or
things
to
up
learn?
for myself at that stage. It was just for myself at that stage. So it was just, I knew there was more that needed to come up. So I did a
So
lot of
can I
breath
can
work.
I just
Yep.
ask you something before I forget, because you've touched on two very important points, Sammy. One is that the moment you had this realization or the connection of the dots or this pivotal moment, some sort of opening happened where you're like, oh my gosh, all right, universe, guide me. Like how? What does this mean in my life? And then you said things started to happen, like you were all of a sudden being aligned with the right people, the right situations. And I think this is important to emphasize here, because oftentimes we seek solutions. Like, okay, I feel like I need this, or I'm trying to find my purpose. Where do I go? Like, where do I go exactly? Who do I turn to? And I
Mm,
think actually what we need to do is exactly what you did, kind of just open yourself up and just kind of go like, wow, almost like surrender to the universe and say, wow, I've had this pivotal moment. Genuinely, probably you didn't know where to go from here, because we don't know what we don't know. You had this wonderful human in your life that was helping you, right? But in terms of taking extra steps, by surrendering to the universe and go like, oh wow, I've realized now, okay, this is what's happening, guide me. And then all of a sudden it's like the universe gives you the right people, the right path, and it's so removed from you having to have that control and take actions and go and see these people, seek them out. They were coming to you. And I think I really wanted to emphasize that, because this is often what happens. This is so many times I even share this with my clients. I'm like, you actually don't have to do anything. You just have to be open. You have to surrender. So that was important. But now the other important thing is with you. So you've learned about this breathwork, you've had this session, and instead of kind of going like a lot of us entrepreneurial, creative people go like, oh my God, I could do this for a living, you allowed this to be your medicine first and kind of like, hang on, what else is going to come out, and you allowed yourself to have these sessions, which I think is what a lot of us should do and probably don't do. We kind of jump at the gift. And like try to teach, try to facilitate, forgetting that it has to be our own medicine first. We have to feel it, we have to put it through our own energy field so that we can understand the people that come to us eventually on a much deeper level, which I love. So you've done
mm.
online sessions. Was online sessions, if we can focus a little bit on the breath work itself, and I do want you to tell us how you actually started being the facilitator, but do online sessions work with this, or do people have to be in person with you?
No, they absolutely work online as well. Like they can be just as powerful online as in person. I guess it's each to your own preference as well. You know, some people prefer in-person sessions because you get that physical touch of someone being right there, you know. Um, but then some people prefer online sessions because they're in the safety of their own home where they're comfortable and feeling safe and secure as well. So it's really just a personal preference. I've obviously done both, and I find that both are just can be just as powerful as each other. So,
Mm.
and then obviously you've got, you know, your one-on-one sessions and your group sessions as well, which again are different. You know, group sessions is such a huge energy and a very big dynamic, and I really like the group sessions because I just feel like the energy that feeds off each other is it's super incredibly powerful. Especially the in-person sessions. And
Your session
then,
was so, I mean, I attended the group session and that was huge. I mean, that was really
yeah,
huge. And then I walked away thinking, would it have been better maybe if I came with a particular intention? Like, obviously, when people book in, they have an intention. And I kind of just came, hey, let me see what this is about. But then I go, like, well, maybe, and I don't know which one is better or not, but for me, I felt like it was kind of interesting because I went into it thinking, I don't really know what needs to come out. Like there wasn't a specific intention. And the things that did come up, and I have the same, like I would describe it in the same way that you described, like it just bubbled up to the surface. And I felt like this release. These things were things that like with my conscious mind, I would not have even picked. They were just so like, I haven't even thought about it. But when they came up and I saw the stuff, I mean, it was so powerful and so potent, and I could feel it being released. And then afterwards, I felt completely, I don't know if disconnect is the right word, but I felt disconnected from the experience, as in, like, I know it happened, I acknowledge that it happened, but when I think about it, there's nothing happening in my body. There's no emotion that makes me kind of, I don't know, connected to that experience. And it felt really powerful. So that was
mm,
incredible in a group session.
yeah, that's right. And just touching on what you said about intentions too. Like I used to really get people to think about their intentions for the sessions and what they wanted to kind of work on or release. But over the time, I've really changed that a lot because I've found that when you come into a session, what you intend to go into the session for may not be what you get. And
Mm.
that's the power of the body's own wisdom, right? So I just really encourage people just to go in with the intention of surrendering and being open to the experience and whatever it's going to bring you, because you just don't know what it's going to bring. Your body's own wisdom and healing intelligence will give you what it's ready to bring up to the surface, and it could
Mm.
be different each time.
Mm. And the experience, I gotta say, I've had an experience with, let's say, ayahuasca type of plant medicine. Um, and this was very, very similar in terms of how you feel. And I know you gave us a warning, but to be honest with you, I kind of thought, oh, really? It's just breath work. Like you're just breathing. But it was incredibly similar to like how it allows you to let go of control and guard something that might come up that could be painful. You know, with our conscious mind, we tend to guard it, we tend to push it down. I don't
Mm,
want to think about it. And you know, with plant medicine, the whole thing is it brings it out of you. And the same was with this. So that was really intensely powerful and surprised me. Um, but yeah, I want to hear more actually because I'm going to go on a whole tangent of how amazing that was. But I really want to hear from how then you decided to do that and tell us more
yeah.
about the breathwork from
Um,
like your point of view because
I think it was kind of always in the back of my mind when I started doing all this stuff. I was like, oh, this is something that I could see myself doing, something I could do. But obviously, all my limiting beliefs were like, oh, how could I be a healer, or how could I be a coach, or you know, whatever, all these things. So it was just something in the back of my mind, but just kind of continued on my healing journey. And yeah, as I said, just as I'm traveling around, meeting different people, and they're like, oh, go see this healer, blah, blah, blah. And just got to a point eventually where I was living up in Darwin, and I went to a breathwork ceremony there and discovered that the lady who ran the ceremony was actually doing facilitator training in Darwin, starting like a month or two, I think a month later. So I was like, oh, should I do this? It's a lot of money. Can I do this? Am I all of these things questioning it? And had a boyfriend at the time, and he was like, I think you should just go for it. So I did. I signed up and did the facilitator training, and the training takes you on a whole nother healing journey yourself too, because it's like obviously, you got to make sure that you've done all your healing and deep inner work as well to be able to guide people into that space. Like you can only take people as deep as you've taken yourself, right? So it was another journey of all my own stuff as well as learning all about the breath techniques, how to hold space, trauma informed practices, all these different things merged into one kind of training. And yeah, that was, I guess, how I got into the facilitator training. And yeah, it was just profound. It was amazing. And from there, I guess that just kind of led into more like I did my facilitator training, and then actually left Darwin and moved back to my hometown here, Lakes Entrance, and that's when I just kind of started my business. I started running workshops and one-on-one healings, and yeah, one thing just led to the next. I started incorporating sound healing into my sessions as well, which is now, I guess, my signature um, healings are breath work and sound. So I use crystal bowls and medicine drums and all different kinds of medicine instruments in my sessions as well. Um, which I found that the two of them together is, yeah, it's very profound. It's quite powerful.
Mm.
So yeah, got into the sound healing as well. And really, yeah, it just, yeah, I guess I've just,
Started from there.
yeah, it
It
just
just
started from
blossomed. You
there.
go
And
from
from there,
strength to
I've,
strength.
yeah, exactly. And from there, I did my Reiki training. So that's also incorporated into my healings. Like, so I work with, the four bodies in my healings, which is the physical, the energy, the emotional, and the mental body. So I work with all of those in my healings. And yeah, from there just led to another thing, obviously, and did my yin yoga training recently. And yeah, and now I'm doing embodiment coaching as well. So
I love that.
just being able to take women on a full journey of whether they're beginning their spiritual awakening or whatever it is, or feeling disconnected from themselves, their bodies, their authentic expression, just being able to take them on a full journey using all the tools. Obviously breath work is my at the forefront of everything I teach. It's my medicine, but all these other tools that I have learnt, studied, picked up along the ways, they're all weaved into my work. So
I
yeah, that's what I'm
love
doing.
that,
Yeah.
and I love, and thank you for sharing your journey with such great honesty and detail, because that always helps us, especially when we think, well, I can't be that special, maybe that's her, maybe they, because they see you at that point already, but they don't know what it took for you to get there, right? Um, so let's talk about breath work. Let's talk about the seemingly in innocent practice, like, it feels like there's no magic there, no nothing, and yet it is so potent and powerful. And of course, there is spiritual significance to it, because so many times, like someone like me who has never done breathwork facilitation, I get it when I open someone's Akashic records. There's an element of breathwork, not breathwork, that's a bit too much, but of a word, but there's some sort of breath practice, right? Whether it's because this person's anxious, or because they're trying to connect, and they need to drop into their body more, whatever it is, they're sharing these elements with me. So obviously it is connected to the spirit world, and it's not just um like physio or whatever, very human. So please share with us more around breathwork, like how, what, who should consider having breathwork sessions, all of that.
Yeah, you're so right, Kasia, because it is, I have a lot of people that are very apprehensive to try breath work because they're like, it's just breathing, or they don't understand the significance of it, or, it's something that's still not very well known, I guess, unless you're kind of really in that world. But I always like to give a little bit of an explanation on the types of breath work, so it gives a bit of a clear understanding. So the way that I explain it is there's three types or three styles, whatever you want to call it, of breath work, and you've got your very science-backed functional breath work, which is all about how you're breathing on a day-to-day basis, like your 24/7 style of breath, whether you're breathing nice and deeply into your belly or whether your breathing is very shallow and up in your chest, whether you're breathing through your mouth, rapid breathing, all those kinds of things. So it's like how you're breathing every day, which obviously affects your health and well-being. Okay. And then you've got like your integrative daily practices, which are your sort of kind of short 5 to sort of 20-minute practices that you can use in your everyday life. So, or for those in the yogic world, your pranayama style practices and your Wim Hof practices, anything that kind of shifts your state of being, whether it's up regulating or down regulating. And then you have this powerful therapeutic style of breath work. And it does have quite a few different names these days because there are different branches of people who have evolved it and created different styles of it. But essentially, it all comes under kind of therapeutic breath work. But, people may hear it called holotropic breath work. That's kind of the original one that was born back in the 60s. And again, that was created or discovered, I guess, from a couple of psychotherapists who worked deeply in the psychedelic therapy field. So they discovered that using your own breath, you could get the same or very similar results as using psychedelic therapy for deep emotional healing, trauma healing, all those kinds of things. So that's kind of how breathwork came about. Yeah, so it could be called holotropic breath work, shamanic breath work, rebirthing breath work, transformational breath work. It's got all these different names. And they can be facilitated slightly different in terms of the breath pattern, the set and setting, those types of things. Okay. But essentially they all lead to the same purpose, which is for the purpose of like very deep emotional healing, working through trauma, and for, I guess, spiritual awakening, having transcendental experiences, connecting to your own inner guidance, all of these beautiful things. So, yeah, this type of breath work is obviously very powerful. So, honestly, well, there is some contradictions to people who can use it because it is a very activating type of breath work. So, people that might have heart conditions and stuff like that are probably best not to. But generally, I honestly think that everybody could benefit from this kind of breath work because it's not just for working through trauma, but it is being able to like just find clarity in your life, to connect with yourself on a deeper level, to deepen your own intuition. So what's happening when we're doing these breathwork sessions, as you probably experience, we're clearing stuff out of the body. So to give you a bit of a explanation on the science of what kind of happens. So when we have experiences in life, whether it's trauma or, big emotional experiences, like every experience we experience in life is felt with an emotion, right? And those emotions can get stuck in the body. So if something traumatic happens to us, that gets stuck in our body, if we don't complete the stress cycle at the time, what happens is those emotions, which is just energy and motion, sensations in the body, they all get stuck in the body. Okay, they get trapped in the body. And then they basically get trapped in the body and then trapped in the subconscious mind. So, and then what happens is those experiences that are in the body manifest into beliefs and patterns and ways of acting. So it's like our behavior, our thinking, our thoughts, our beliefs. It can manifest into addictions and all of these kinds of things, our patterns and our behaviors. So essentially, all this stuff that's getting stored in our subconscious mind and in our body is ruling our life, right? It's driving all our behaviors, all our thoughts, all our patterns, all our limiting beliefs. I'm not good enough, or I don't deserve love, or nobody's ever going to love me, or, whatever it is based on a past experience. And a past experience we may not even remember. This can go all the way back to our birth story. If you have a traumatic birth story that gets stuck in your nervous system and then gets formed into all of these beliefs and all of these things that we carry through our entire life. So you can see how powerful it is because we're literally able to go in and heal stuff that has been stuck in our psyche for our entire lives. Like it's phenomenal. So
Especially the stuff that you may not necessarily be aware of on a day-to-day basis, right? Like there could be stuff that you remember that happened to you, or you know, maybe even the big traumatic experiences. And so you know, okay, that has happened. I know that. I remember. I can feel it every time I think about it. Something happens in my body. But then there's those little ones that we don't necessarily. Oh, birth, right? Like where, you know, obviously you weren't aware or even in control of how that goes. So that is, I find that really probably the most fascinating way. And I think this is why I am fascinated with plant medicine as well, because it's
mm,
that stuff that gets pulled out that, you know, you like you mentioned this earlier, Sammy, you may come for one thing, you know, or have a clear intention, like this is why I want this, but then other stuff comes or other stuff only comes and that one doesn't really, right? Which is sort of similar with past lives, I guess, as well, because people often think, oh, it's a great party trick. I would love to know if I was Marilyn Monroe or something. But the real purpose is when things happen that are perhaps were traumatic and you're experiencing or reliving it, or you even go like, wow, you know what? I am actually in this lifetime petrified of fire, and there's no reason why, right? And you make that connection, that in itself already alleviates that, you know, and kind of dissolves it. So thank you for sharing this and explaining breathwork in such detail. Is there anything though that, like, let's say, a little tiny practice or anything that you could share with us, perhaps that like those who are watching, listening, you know, could do easily daily, you know, something that is small,
yeah,
significant?
absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned that because we can do all these really big sessions, but honestly, for me, I think one of the most profound tools that I've had in my journey with breathwork is the daily practice. So I practice breathwork every single day. And like anything, the more you practice something, you know, you just experience the benefits over a period of time, right? It all kind of builds up and but for me, the daily practice has been such a incredible tool for me reconnecting back to my body and my own intuition. I was so disconnected from my intuition, like you have no idea. But practicing breath work every day, just this little short practice, and I can show you, really helped me to drop into my body, quiet the mind, because I struggled with meditation normally. Yeah, so breath work is a beautiful way to be able to drop into meditation as well and connect to the body, sit in stillness, feel what's happening in the body. So this is how we connect with the body because we feel the sensations and all the things going, the energy moving, and we can really drop in and listen to the heart. And that's when we start reconnecting to our intuition. Yeah, we start deepening that connection. So the daily practice for me has really been such a beautiful tool for all of that. I'd love to share that. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, because that is the dropping into the heart is something that probably a lot of my psychic students have heard as well. Like you can't be in your head, you know. And I always say, you know, when you first do it, you may not know whether you're in your head or in your heart, but the more you do it, you will notice the difference between the head and the heart, you know, or even deeper if you go into your body. And I agree with you that breathing is so amazing to get you started to meditate because sometimes, yes, the idea of sitting, closing your eyes, and then like, what do I do now? But if you incorporate breathing, like I tend to do this inhale to the count of 4, hold to the count of 4, and then exhale to the count of 8. Really slowly, and I do it 3 times, and then I pause for 15 seconds, and I focus on the third eye, and then I do another sort of series, and I do it 3 times, and that especially I notice helps me when I have days where, you know, like things are happening. My mind is so busy, and that is the best time actually to actually meditate because the meditation will really help to clear your mind. But at the same time, I feel like that's the ego in me goes like, no, like a stubborn little toddler. I don't want to meditate. I can't sit still, right? So I tend to do that breath work, and that really helps me. And slowing down. Yeah, slowing down breathing, slowing down my mind. Um, so Sammy, is there anything that you wished I asked you in this interview that I didn't, because I didn't know to ask you?
Um, well, I can't really think of anything now. I think we've covered quite a bit. I mean, I could talk all day about breath work and healing and
Oh, there's so
um,
much.
yeah, I don't know. I think it's been for me, it's been just such a, the journey of really coming home to yourself, like the authentic you, and really just blocking out the noise and just listening to who you are and shedding the layers of, learning to be comfortable in your own skin and your own authenticity is it's just so important because I think that's when you really find and discover your own gifts, your own purpose is when you start, yeah, just shedding those layers, coming home to yourself, coming home to your body, starting to love yourself. Like that's when you can discover all these beautiful things, your gifts and your purpose and your abilities, everything starts coming online when you come back to your true essence. So yeah, I think that's just such a beautiful like journey to take.
You have just inspired another question that I want to ask you. How do you know if you're living on purpose, living your purpose, and do you believe that once when you identify, I am living a very purposeful life, I live my purpose, that it's a set, stagnant for the rest of your life kind of thing, or can it change where you come to another sort of period in your life where you feel purposeless for whatever reason, and you have to find your new purpose? What are your beliefs around that? What do you think? So it's a twofold question, I guess.
Well, it's my belief that I do believe that your purpose can change throughout your life. We go through different seasons in life. And I think it can change. So, I right now for me, I know I'm living my purpose and, living my soul gifts. Because I feel a lot of joy and a lot of fulfillment and a lot of freedom in what I'm doing in my life right now. And so for me, I know I'm in alignment. It's just a deep inner knowing, a deep inner feeling of feeling grateful and joyful and fulfilled every single day I wake up and get to do this work. But I also know that, over time that may change and evolve. And as I go through my journey and I have new experiences, new things may arise into my life and I may find a new purpose. And I think that's just the way life goes. It's quite a big journey and we never stay the same. I've
Mm,
I've had many deaths and rebirths already in my
mm,
life. And I'm sure there's many more to come. So, and with the death and a rebirth, can come a new purpose, a new direction. So I think, yeah, it's possible that you may have more than one or two or three purposes in your life.
I love that. That's wonderful. Well, this brings us to the end, and I always love asking my guests whether they have a gift that they wish to leave us with. So, if you have one.
Yeah, sure. If you like, I can run you through a little breath practice, a little activating breath
Yes.
practice. Yeah, beautiful.
Nice.
So this, yeah, as I said, it's a daily practice. It takes 5 minutes. You can do it. You can do it in the morning. It is an activating practice, so it's going to activate your energy. It's going to bring your energy up, connect you into your body, drop you into your heart space. What we're going to do is 3 rounds of conscious connected breathing. So conscious connected breathing is breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth connectedly in a circular rhythmic motion. So there's no pausing at the top, there's no pausing at the bottom. In between those 3 rounds, we're going to do some breath holds. So the first round will be 10 breaths, followed by a 10-second breath hold. The second round will be 20 breaths, followed by a 20-second breath hold. And the third round will be 30 breaths, followed by a 30-second breath hold. So what this is also doing is so with this cup of breathing, we're putting intentional stress on our body, and then we're bringing our body back down with the breath hold. So it's creating flexibility in our nervous system as well. Okay, which is really good for our day-to-day well-being. So if you just want to close down your eyes, Just taking a few normal breaths in and out your nose to begin with. And just grounding into your body, feeling your feet connecting to the earth beneath you. So we're going to begin with the first round of conscious connected breaths. So we're going to be doing 10 breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. I'll guide you through each one. I'll count you down and we'll start with a 10-second breath hold on the first round. So on the count of 3, 2, 1, breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth for 1 and in again and out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and last one, in and out, all the way out and holding at the bottom for 10 seconds. Just feeling if anything's arising, any sensations arising in the body. And going for round 2, breathing in and out the mouth. That's 1, 2, in and out. No pause at the top, no pause at the bottom. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, halfway, 10 more. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Last one, 20, in and out, holding at the bottom for 20 seconds and just feeling all those beautiful sensations that are arising in the body, feeling into your heart, feeling into your intuition, just noticing whatever's coming up, noticing the blissful feeling of being in such stillness, quietness of the mind. All right, and we're going for our last round, breathing in through the nose and out. In, out. That's it. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's it. 12, 13, 14, 15, halfway, 16, 17, 18, good job. 19, you're nearly there. 20, 10 more big breaths. That's it. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, just a few more. 27, 28, 29. Last one in, all the way out and holding at the bottom, 30 seconds. I just want you to place one hand on your heart space. And in this moment, I just want you to ask yourself, what is my inner guidance needing me to know today? What do I need to know? What needs to come through? And just listening to whatever arises, the first thoughts that come into your mind, knowing that this is your inner guidance, your intuition speaking directly to you. Whenever you're feeling ready, taking a nice big breath through the nose, sighing it out the mouth, and just coming back into your regular normal rhythm of breathing. And when you're feeling ready, just opening your eyes, coming back into the space.
Oh, that was wonderful. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
My inner guidance was saying to take uh, the foot off the gas pedal and just take it easy, rest, which I definitely need. Um, it was really lovely. I started feeling sensations. I'm thinking, I don't know if I can finish this episode fast. That was really lovely.
You're
Thank
very
you.
welcome. Thank you,
Thank you
Kasia.
so
Thank you
much.
for having me on.
Oh,
It's been beautiful.
I so enjoyed it. And I feel like our conversation, like you said, could go into so many branches, so many topics. We are
Oh,
going
yeah.
to leave it at this now because, especially if you were doing the breath practice with us, you probably need to lie down. I know I feel a bit lightheaded, and there's a lot
Yeah.
of things happening in my body.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely do it sitting down or laying down. Just put that in there. You will feel lots of things. So do
yeah,
it safely, sitting or laying.
and I'm gonna put a little disclaimer
Yes.
underneath this video. Please don't do this while you're driving because you will definitely feel lightheaded. Because I know some of you are listening to my podcast while driving or doing chores. You probably don't want to do this breath work then.
Yes.
But I want to thank you, Sammi, so much. I will make sure that all your links are easy to find. But just in case anyone wants to rush off now, just tell us one more time where to find you. What's the best place, the quickest way to see
Yeah.
you?
So yeah, I'm very active on Instagram, always putting a lot of content out on there. So that's probably the best place, or just via email, or you can check me out on my website. And Kash will put all the
Fantastic.
links.
I will. Thank you very much, and have a beautiful Christmas as well. And everyone else, have a lovely Christmas.
You too. Thank you, Kasha.
Bye.
Bye.